Rachel places the paper on the kitchen table and pushes it forward with one finger. The paper makes a dry scraping sound against the wood. Lisa is standing at the stove, turning eggs in a pan that smells faintly of butter. The morning light comes through the blinds in pale stripes. The house is quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the small click of the spatula touching metal. By Friday, Rachel says. She does not sit. Brad leans back in one of the dining chairs as if he owns the room. He does not look at Lisa. He studies the wall, the cabinets, the layout, as if measuring what could be replaced. The coffee mug in Rachel's hand lands on the table with a sharper sound than necessary. Lisa turns off the stove. The flame dies with a small sigh. She wipes her hands on a towel before turning around. "What is this?" she asks. Rachel's voice is bright in a way that feels rehearsed. "Brad and I are starting our life together. We need space. We need a fresh start." Brad clears his throat. "We've already arranged a moving service." The word arranged hangs in the air like a verdict. Lisa looks down at the paper. The date is circled in pen. 4 days from now. Friday. "You want me out by Friday?" she asks. "We've been more than patient," Rachel replies. "You've lived here rent-free for 5 years." The spatula slips from Lisa's hand and taps softly against the counter. "David would have wanted you to be independent," Rachel adds. The name lands harder than the mug. Lisa feels it in her chest. The kitchen smells suddenly too sweet, too small. "I sold my home for this house," Lisa says quietly. "Every penny. We're grateful for the loan." Rachel interrupts. "It wasn't a loan." Rachel's smile fades. "David is gone. Brad and I need to move forward." Brad finally looks at Lisa. His expression is cool, businesslike. "The movers will help pack your things." "Transport them where?" Lisa asks. Rachel shrugs. "You're a grown woman. You'll figure something out." The refrigerator hum seems louder now. For a moment, no one speaks. Lisa notices small details the way she always does. The way Brad's shoe rests on the leg of the chair. The way Rachel's nails are freshly done. The way the morning sun glints off the edge of the countertop she once chose herself. She sets the towel down very carefully. "You're throwing me out," she says. "We're helping you become independent," Rachel replies. The words are clean, polished, empty. The next 4 days pass in the sound of cardboard tearing and tape pulling tight. Boxes stack in the hallway. 2 suitcases sit open on the bed in the spare room that was once meant to be temporary. Lisa folds sweaters that still carry the faint scent of lavender. She wraps framed photographs in newspaper. James smiling beside an engine. David as a boy, missing front teeth, holding up a crooked drawing. She calls senior services. A woman on the other end of the line explains gently that the waiting list is long, months long. Lisa thanks her anyway. On Friday morning, the house smells like brewed coffee and fresh shampoo. Rachel is dressed for work. The movers never come. They were not needed. Lisa stands in the foyer with one battered suitcase and a cardboard box pressed against her chest. The box holds the photographs. Nothing else matters. "Do you have somewhere to go?" Rachel asks. The question sounds procedural. Lisa considers lying. She is too tired. "No," Rachel nods once. "Well, good luck." She opens the door. Cool air slides inside. Lisa steps out onto the porch. The morning sun is brighter than she expects. The light makes her squint. She pauses. "I loved David more than my own life," she says, without turning. Rachel's voice softens for half a breath. "I know you did." There is a small space where something human might live. Then it closes. "But he's gone, Lisa. I have to think about my future." Lisa nods slowly. I hope someday you understand, Rachel adds. Lisa turns then. I don't, she says. She walks down the path. The suitcase wheels bump unevenly over the concrete. One of them sticks and drags, making a thin scraping sound. Behind her, the door closes. A second later, the deadbolt slides into place with a hard metallic click. The sound is sharp, final. Lisa does not look back. She stands on the sidewalk for a moment, the box heavy in her arms. The neighborhood is quiet, lawns trimmed, curtains drawn, life continuing without her. A breeze lifts the corner of the paper still folded in her pocket. 4 days. She begins to walk. The suitcase wheel catches again. She lifts it slightly and keeps moving. Her breath grows heavier than she expects. 75 years old and nowhere to go. The sun climbs higher. The house behind her disappears from view. Lisa keeps walking, the sound of plastic wheels against pavement following her down the street like a thin, stubborn echo of everything she has lost. Lisa walks until the houses thin out and the sidewalks disappear. The suitcase wheel grinds against cracked pavement, then dirt. Each step sends a dull ache through her knee. The cardboard box digs into her forearm. She adjusts it without stopping. She does not allow herself to cry again. The air smells faintly of cut grass and gasoline from a passing car. The world continues, indifferent. At the bus station, the building hums with fluorescent lights. A vending machine rattles somewhere in the corner. Lisa stands in line behind a young mother with 2 children tugging at her coat. She keeps her eyes on the digital board. Milford. 2 hours. $15. She buys the ticket with careful fingers and counts the change twice before folding it into her purse. The paper ticket is thin, almost weightless. Still, it feels like direction. The bus ride is long and quiet. Vinyl seats stick slightly to her skin. The engine vibrates through the floor, steady and mechanical. She rests the box of photographs on her lap and watches the city dissolve into open land. Fields stretch wide under a pale sky. Telephone poles pass in rhythm. The farther they travel, the less there is. Remote, that word had once sounded romantic when James said it. Someday we'll put a cabin out there. She can still hear his voice. Practical, calm, certain. James had fixed school buses for the county for more than 30 years. He understood engines, understood systems, understood how to keep something running long after others would discard it. He would not have panicked. The thought steadies her. When the bus finally hisses to a stop in Milford, the town barely seems real. A gas station with a faded sign, a general store with dusty windows, a post office the size of a living room, a few scattered houses along a quiet highway. Wind moves across open land with nothing to slow it. Lisa steps down carefully, clutching her box. Inside the general store, a bell rings when she opens the door. The scent of old wood and coffee fills the air. Shelves are lined with canned goods and hardware supplies. A woman behind the counter looks up from a newspaper. You passing through? The woman asks. Lisa shakes her head. I'm looking for the old Henderson property. The woman squints slightly, thinking, 5 acres out past the dirt road bend? Yes, there's nothing out there but brush and rattlesnakes, the woman says, not unkindly, just factual. I know. The woman studies her for a moment longer, then gives directions. Follow the highway a mile. Take the unmarked dirt road on the left. Walk about 3 miles. You'll see it. Lisa buys a bottle of water, a small pack of crackers, and a flashlight. The coins in her purse feel fewer now. Outside, the sky stretches wide and bright. The dirt road is exactly as she remembers. Rutted, uneven, overgrown at the edges. Weeds brush against her calves as she walks. The suitcase wheel protests constantly, catching on stones and roots. Several times she has to stop and lift it completely. Her knee throbs. Sweat gathers at her temples, but she keeps moving. With each step, the world grows quieter. No traffic, no distant sirens, just wind and the faint rustle of dry grass. After nearly an hour, her breathing grows shallow. She pauses beneath the thin shade of a crooked tree and drinks carefully from the water bottle. The land smells dry, almost metallic in the heat. She presses forward. Then she sees it. The property opens in front of her like a forgotten memory. 5 acres of scrub and brush, tangled and wild. Bits of trash caught in low branches. Old cans half buried in dirt. Time has passed here without witness. And there, near the center, stands the bus. It leans slightly to one side. Yellow paint faded to a dull mustard. Rust blooms along its edges like dark scars. Vines wrap around the wheels. The tires sag flat against the ground. It looks abandoned, discarded. Lisa lets out a short breath that almost sounds like laughter. "So this is what we have," she murmurs. The absurdity presses against her ribs. 75 years old, standing before a rusted school bus in the middle of nowhere. She sets down the suitcase and box for a moment and studies it. James had towed it here years ago when the county retired it. He had stood proudly beside it, wiping grease from his hands. Someday, he had said, the word had stretched comfortably then. Now it hangs differently. Lisa picks up her belongings and walks toward the bus. Dry weeds crunch under her shoes. A grasshopper leaps away at her approach. The bus door is closed. She grips the handle and pulls. For a second, nothing happens. Then the hinges scream as the door jerks open with a long, metallic groan that echoes across the empty land. Dust swirls in the late afternoon light. Inside, the air is thick with mildew and old fabric. Faded green vinyl seats line both sides, cracked and split. Cobwebs drape from the ceiling. Leaves and dirt scatter across the floor. A bird's nest rests in one corner. It is worse than she imagined. And yet, it is shelter. Lisa steps inside. The metal floor creaks faintly beneath her weight. She moves slowly down the aisle, fingertips brushing seatbacks coated in fine dust. At the front, she lowers herself carefully into the driver's seat. The springs groan in response. Through the dirty windshield, the land stretches wide and empty. The sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the scrub. For the first time since she stepped off the sidewalk, her body stops moving. The wind hums softly outside. The bus holds its silence. Lisa sits very still, breathing in the scent of rust and memory. She is alone, but she is not on a sidewalk anymore. The first night is colder than Lisa expects. Metal holds the chill long after the sun disappears. The bus creaks as the temperature drops. Small ticking sounds in the walls, like something settling into itself. She lies across 2 seats, her jacket folded beneath her head. The box of photographs tucked against her chest. Wind moves through the cracked window seals with a thin whistle. Sleep comes in fragments. At dawn, birds begin arguing in the brush outside. Their sharp calls cut through the quiet. Lisa opens her eyes slowly. Every joint protests. Her back aches from the uneven vinyl beneath her. She sits up carefully. Dust floats in the early light, drifting through the windshield in pale beams. The world outside is wide and untouched. No engines, no voices, just wind and wings. She steps outside and walks toward a patch of brush for privacy. The morning air is cool, clean. It smells of dry grass and distant earth. When she returns, she studies the bus with a new expression. It is not a symbol anymore. It is a problem to solve. She finds an old broom wedged behind the last seat. The handle is splintered, but intact. She begins at the front, sweeping leaves and dirt into a growing pile near the door. The sound of bristles scraping metal is steady, almost rhythmic. Dust coats her hands. Cobwebs cling to her sleeves. She works until her arms tremble. By midday, a small clearing appears on the floor near the driver's seat. She drags two less damaged seats closer together and arranges her jacket neatly. She opens two windows to let air pass through. The smell of mildew fades slightly. It is still a ruin, but it is less wild. Over the next days, Lisa builds a routine. She walks into Milford every other morning. The journey is slow, but her steps grow steadier. At the general store, the woman behind the counter, Betty, watches her with quiet curiosity. "You really staying out there?" Betty asks one afternoon, sliding a bottle of water across the counter. "In the bus," Lisa answers evenly. Betty nods once. "You'll need more than crackers." She helps Lisa choose a camping stove, a metal water container, matches. She gives a small discount without mentioning it. Back at the property, Lisa sets up the stove on a flat patch of ground outside. The first time she lights it, the flame flares too high, and she startles, stepping back. Then she adjusts the knob, and the blue fire settles into something manageable. She eats simple meals. She sweeps every day. She washes the inside of the windshield with a damp cloth until the view clears slightly. Through it, the land begins to feel less hostile and more like something waiting. 3 weeks pass. Clouds gather one afternoon, dark and heavy. The air changes thicker, charged. Lisa stands outside watching the horizon as the wind sharpens. She has seen storms like this before, but not from inside a metal shell. The first crack of thunder splits the sky. Rain follows immediately, hard and slanted. It pounds against the roof of the bus with a metallic roar. Lisa climbs inside quickly and pulls the door shut. The wind rocks the bus slightly. Water streaks down the dirty windows in jagged lines. She stands near the front, listening. Then she hears it. Drip, drip, drip. The sound is small but distinct. She turns slowly. At the back of the bus, water seeps through the ceiling panel. A thin stream runs down and lands directly on the seat where she has placed the cardboard box. Her breath catches. "No," she whispers. She rushes down the aisle as rain intensifies. The bus groans under the force of wind. She grabs the box and pulls it close, but the top corner is already damp. She opens it with shaking fingers. Photographs inside have begun to curl. Ink blurs at the edges. One picture, David at 8 years old, grinning with a missing tooth, has darkened where water touched it. Lisa feels something fracture inside her. No, no, no. She pulls the photographs out carefully and lays them across the dry seats near the front. Rainwater runs down her wrists as she moves. The dripping continues. She climbs onto the seat beneath the leak. Her knee protests sharply, but she ignores it. The ceiling panel above her is loose, slightly bowed inward from rust. Water streams through a narrow seam. She presses her palm against the panel, trying to shift it. It moves under pressure. Lightning flashes outside, white and blinding through the windows. In that sudden light, something glints above the gap. Metal, not part of the ceiling. Lisa squints upward, rain splashing against her shoulders. She pushes the panel aside further. It scrapes loudly against its frame. There, wedged between beams, sits a rectangular object, a steel box. It is dusty, but intact. Heavy, out of place. Her heart begins to pound harder than the thunder. With both hands, she reaches up. The edges bite into her fingers as she pulls. For a moment it refuses to move. She shifts her footing on the slippery seat and tugs again. The box slides free with a dull scrape and drops into her arms. She nearly loses her balance, but steadies herself clutching it tight against her chest. Rain continues to hammer the roof. Lisa climbs down slowly, carrying the box toward the front where it is drier. Her hands tremble not from cold, but from something else entirely. The bus shudders as thunder rolls overhead. She sets the steel box on the floor in front of the driver's seat. It is heavier than it looks. Water drips somewhere behind her. Lightning flashes again, illuminating the box in sharp white light. Lisa stares at it, breath shallow. In the middle of the storm, in the middle of nowhere, something has been waiting above her all this time. The storm does not stop. Rain pounds against the roof in relentless waves, metal vibrating under each strike. Lightning flickers through the windshield, turning the steel box at Lisa's feet into something almost luminous. She kneels in front of it. The box is old but solid, edges worn smooth by time. A small combination lock hangs from the latch, rusted through and useless. She touches it gently, then pulls. The lock crumbles in her hand. For a second, she only listens to the storm. Then she lifts the lid. The hinges groan softly. Inside, everything is wrapped in oiled canvas, protected with careful precision. The smell that rises is faint metal, old paper, and something distinctly familiar. Machine oil. James. Her throat tightens. She unfolds the canvas slowly. On top rests a leather-bound journal, worn at the edges. Beneath it, a thick manila envelope sealed with yellowed tape, and under that, a wooden cigar box. She reaches for the journal first. Her fingers hover over the cover before she opens it. The first page is filled with James's handwriting, steady, deliberate, unmistakable. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry, my love. The words blur for a moment before she forces herself to focus. I wanted to give you more. I leave you this, hoping it helps. Her breath catches. She turns the page. The journal is not long. It reads like something written late at night, in private, without fanfare. James explains how he collected coins for years. Nothing flashy, just small purchases when he could spare it. A hobby, he calls it. Something to pass down to David. Then the tone shifts. I had them appraised quietly. Some are rare, more valuable than I realized. If something happens to me, this collection could support you for years. He writes about distrust of banks, about wanting something tangible, about hiding the collection somewhere safe, somewhere only she would find if she ever needed it. The bus. Lisa presses her lips together. I love you always. The final line is signed simply, James. Rain lashes harder against the roof, as if the sky itself is responding. Lisa places the journal carefully beside her. She lifts the manila envelope next. The paper is thick, still crisp despite the years. She peels the tape back slowly. Inside are appraisal documents. She unfolds them one by one. Printed letterhead, official signatures, itemized listings, dates. Her eyes scan down the page. Total estimated value, $175,000. The number sits at the bottom in bold type. For a long moment, she does not breathe. The storm continues its assault outside, but inside the bus there is only silence. $175,000. She presses her palm against the paper, as if to confirm it is real. The date catches her eye. 1 year before James died. He had known. He had prepared. Lisa lets out a sound that is almost a laugh and almost a sob. It shakes through her body before she can stop it. You stubborn man, she whispers. Her hands tremble as she reaches for the cigar box. The wood is polished, dark, edges smooth. She lifts the lid. Inside, coins rest in individual plastic sleeves, arranged neatly in rows. Silver and copper gleam even in the dim light. Some are old, older than anything she has ever held. Their surfaces shine with preserved care. She lifts one carefully between her fingers. It is heavier than she expects. James's voice echoes faintly in memory, talking about mint marks, about preservation, about history pressed into metal. She had listened then out of love, not interest. Now she listens differently. She sets the coin back gently. The bus rattles as thunder rolls across the land. Lisa sits back against the driver's seat, journal in her lap, appraisal documents resting against her knee, coins glinting at her side. Outside, the land is wild and soaked. Inside, something has shifted. The bus no longer feels like a coffin. It feels like a vault. James had thought ahead. He had seen possibilities she had never imagined. He had prepared for a future neither of them wanted but both had feared, and he had trusted that she would find it only if she needed it. She looks toward the back of the bus, where water still drips from the ceiling. The leak seems smaller now, almost irrelevant. The photograph of David rests near the front, drying slowly. The ink has bled at one edge, but his smile is still visible. Lisa wipes her face with the back of her hand. She is not helpless. She is not abandoned. She has options. The realization spreads through her chest slowly, replacing panic with something steadier, not joy, resolve. She gathers the documents carefully and places them back inside the envelope. She wraps the coins again in the canvas, folding it with deliberate care. The journal she keeps separate, pressing it briefly to her heart before laying it down. The storm begins to weaken. Rain softens into a steady patter. The thunder moves farther away. Lisa closes the steel box, but does not lock it. She stares at it for a long moment. The box is not revenge. It is not vindication. It is protection. James had taken care of her in a way no one else had. Even now, "Thank you," she whispers into the quiet bus. The words are simple, but they carry decades inside them. Outside, the sky lightens slightly as the storm drifts east. Inside the bus, Lisa sits upright, spine straighter than it has been in months. Tomorrow, she will go into the city. Tomorrow, she will find out exactly what James left her. And tomorrow, everything will change. The city feels louder than she remembers. Cars move in impatient lines. Horns snap in short bursts. The sidewalks hum with footsteps. Lisa walks carefully, one hand resting on her bag, where the cigar box is wrapped in canvas and tucked deep inside. The coin shop sits between a dry cleaner and a bakery. The window displays old currency under soft yellow light. A small sign reads, "Numismatics and Precious Metals." She pauses only a second before stepping in. A bell rings above the door. The air inside smells faintly of polished wood and metal. Glass cases line the walls, each one holding coins arranged with quiet precision. Behind the counter stands an older man in a pressed shirt and thin-framed glasses. He looks up. "Good morning," he says. Lisa nods. "I'd like an evaluation." His eyes flick briefly to her bag. "Of course." She unwraps the canvas slowly on the counter. The coins catch the overhead light in flashes of silver and copper. The man's posture shifts almost imperceptibly. He slips on white gloves. One by one, he lifts the coins, examining them beneath a magnifying lens. The shop grows quiet, except for the soft clink of metal meeting glass and the low hum of the display lights. He checks mint marks, dates, edges. Occasionally he nods. Occasionally he inhales slightly through his teeth. Lisa stands very still. Minutes stretch. He reaches the last coin and sets it down gently. Then he looks at her with something close to respect. "Mrs. Thompson, is it?" She nods. "Your husband had an excellent eye." The word husband lands with quiet weight. These pieces have appreciated considerably. He continues. The market has been strong, very strong. He turns the appraisal documents toward her, comparing dates and serial notes with his own references. The paper rustles under his careful movements. Based on current valuation, he says at last, removing his glasses, you're looking at approximately $240,000. The number hangs in the air between them. 240,000. The shop feels smaller suddenly. Brighter. Lisa grips the edge of the counter to steady herself. That's more than the appraisal, she says. He nods. Yes, these were evaluated some time ago. Her eyes flick to the date printed on the document. 1 year before James died. The paper feels heavier now. I don't want to sell all of them, she says quietly. Just enough. He considers this. I can make you an offer today for selected pieces. 75,000. Cashier's check. The words are measured. Professional. 75,000. She thinks of the bus roof, of solar panels, of clean water, of a door that locks from the inside. Yes, she says. The transaction unfolds in careful steps. He selects coins methodically, explaining each one in brief phrases: rare minting, limited circulation, preserved condition. He places them aside in a velvet-lined tray. The remaining coins he repackages with deliberate care. A small printer whirs behind the counter. Paper feeds through. He stamps the receipt with a firm, decisive motion. The sound is sharp, final. He slides the cashier's check across the glass. The number is printed clearly, $75,000. Her name sits above it. Lisa studies it for a long moment. The check is not loud. It does not glow. It is simple paper, but it represents something undeniable. Proof. She signs the receipt with steady fingers. He offers a safety deposit box arrangement for the remaining collection. She agrees. Together they place the coins inside a small metal container. He locks it and hands her a key. Keep this somewhere secure, he says. She nods. When she steps back onto the sidewalk, the city noise feels different, less threatening. She walks directly to a bank 2 blocks away. Inside, the air is cool and smells faintly of ink and carpet cleaner. A teller greets her politely. Lisa opens a new account. She deposits the check. The teller stamps the deposit slip. Another sharp sound. Another confirmation. Lisa watches as the receipt prints. Balance pending. She folds the slip carefully and places it in her purse. Next, she buys a small prepaid phone from a convenience store. The plastic packaging crackles as she opens it on a bench outside. She powers it on. The screen lights up bright and clean. For the first time in weeks, she feels connected by choice, not dependency. By late afternoon, she is back on the road to Milford. The bus ride hums beneath her feet again, but this time her hands are empty except for her purse and the key to the deposit box. The land rolls past the window in quiet waves. When she steps off in Milford and begins the walk toward the property, the dirt road feels different beneath her shoes. Still uneven, still long, but no longer hopeless. The bus comes into view as the sun begins to lower. It stands the same as before, rusted, tilted slightly, stubborn against time. Yet she sees it differently now. She sets her bag inside and climbs into the driver's seat. The metal is still cool, the windshield still streaked, but the space no longer feels temporary. She reaches into her purse and takes out the bank receipt. The ink is fresh and dark. $75,000. She smooths the paper against her knee. The bus is not an ending. It is a beginning. Outside, the sky burns orange as the sun sinks toward the horizon. Inside, Lisa allows herself a small, steady smile. Tomorrow, she will start building. The first contractor arrives on a Tuesday morning in a pickup truck that leaves a trail of dust along the dirt road. Lisa is already outside when he pulls up. The air smells of sun-warmed grass and dry soil. The bus stands behind her, quiet and waiting. "You're Mrs. Thompson?" the man asks, stepping out and shielding his eyes from the glare. "Yes." He studies the bus with a doubtful expression. "You want this converted?" "Yes." There is no apology in her voice. He walks around the vehicle, tapping at rusted panels with his knuckles, crouching to inspect the undercarriage. "Frames solid," he mutters. Surprisingly, Lisa watches carefully. She does not flinch when he lists what needs to be done. Sanding, sealing, new insulation, plumbing lines, wiring. "How long?" she asks. "Couple months. If you want it done right." "I do." Money moves quietly after that. Deposits written, agreements signed, tools unloaded. The next morning begins with the shriek of sandblasting. Rust flakes off in clouds of orange dust. The sound is abrasive, relentless, almost violent. Lisa stands at a distance, a wide-brimmed hat shielding her face, and watches the old paint peel away. Layer by layer, the bus sheds its decay. By afternoon, bare metal gleams in patches beneath the sun. Over the following weeks, the land transforms in small, deliberate increments. A second truck arrives with lumber. The scent of fresh-cut wood replaces mildew. Saws whine. Nails snap into place. The interior seats are removed, one by one, hauled out into a growing pile that smells of aged vinyl and dust. Lisa walks through the gutted frame carefully, stepping over exposed beams and wires. Without the seats, the bus feels larger, open to possibility. Insulation is fitted into the walls. Foam fills old gaps. New windows are sealed. The hollow echo inside begins to soften. Solar panels arrive strapped to the back of another truck. Their glass surfaces flash in the sunlight like polished mirrors. The installers climb onto the roof, boots thudding lightly against metal as they secure brackets and wires. A low electrical hum replaces silence once the system connects. Inside, new flooring goes down smooth hardwood planks that click into place in steady rhythm. The scent of varnish lingers in the air for days. Custom cabinets are fitted along one wall. A compact stove is installed near the front. A narrow counter stretches beneath a window now clear and bright. Water lines are laid carefully. A composting toilet is secured discreetly at the back. A small shower unit fits into a corner that once held broken seats. Each addition erases another trace of abandonment. Outside, the land receives attention too. Brush is cleared by hand and machine. The sound of engines hums through the open field as weeds are cut back and debris hauled away. What was once tangled and chaotic begins to open into defined space. Lisa walks the perimeter daily, her steps steadier now. A drilling rig arrives to sink a well. The ground trembles under its force. Hours later, water rises up through newly set pipes, clean and clear. She cups it in her hands and tastes it. Cold. Real. A small greenhouse frame goes up beside the bus. Clear panels catch the morning light. Raised garden beds are built from leftover wood. Soil is turned and leveled. Seeds are planted with careful fingers. Tomatoes, beans, herbs. The property slowly shifts from survival to intention. Inside the bus, soft lighting replaces harsh glare. A small table folds out from the wall. Cushioned seating lines the front, converting into a bed at night. The air feels warmer now, held in by proper insulation. Climate control hums gently when activated. One evening, as the sun sets, the exterior is repainted. Not school bus yellow, A deep, muted blue with clean white trim. The transformation is startling. What once looked discarded now looks deliberate. Lisa stands several yards away and studies the result. The bus no longer appears stranded. It looks placed. The first time she locks the new door from the inside, she pauses with her hand resting on the handle. The click is quiet, controlled. She turns and surveys the interior. Light spills softly across polished wood. The countertops gleam. The faint scent of cedar lingers in the air. She runs her fingers along the smooth cabinet edge. Everything here exists because she chose it. Word spreads quietly through Milford. Drivers slow along the dirt road, curious about the painted bus and cleared land. A couple stops one afternoon and asks polite questions. Lisa answers simply. She does not tell them everything. A local blogger stops by weeks later, camera slung over one shoulder. He circles the bus slowly, capturing angles as sunlight hits the solar panels. Mind if I post about this? He asks. Lisa considers it. Go ahead, she says. Within days, a short article appears online. Photos of the bus house, the gardens, the greenhouse. The headline calls it innovative. Lisa reads the piece on her new phone one evening as crickets chirp outside. Her name appears in print beneath a photograph of her standing beside the bus. She studies the image. Her posture is straighter than she remembers. The months pass quickly. By the time spring fully arrives, the land blooms with small patches of green. Tomato vines climb steadily upward. Herbs release scent under warm sunlight. Inside, the bus is no longer temporary shelter. It is home. Lisa wakes each morning with purpose. She walks the property before breakfast, checking soil, adjusting irrigation, wiping dust from solar panels. The physical work strengthens her. Her steps grow firmer. One afternoon she catches her reflection in the small mirror above the sink. Her silver hair falls neatly around her face. Her skin, though lined, looks calmer. Her eyes hold something steady. She does not look discarded. She looks restored. As evening settles, she returns to the driver's seat, still her favorite spot. Through the windshield, the property stretches in quiet order beneath a sky streaked pink and gold. The bus hums softly with stored sunlight. The land no longer feels like exile. It feels chosen. The first crack appears in the form of a letter. It arrives in a crisp white envelope with the bank's logo stamped neatly in the corner. Rachel opens it at the kitchen island, the marble surface cool beneath her palms. Brad is pacing near the window, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, I understand liquidity issues, he says tightly. It's temporary. Rachel scans the letter. Past due. 30 days. Failure to remit payment may result in foreclosure proceedings. Her throat tightens. The house feels larger than it should. The ceiling's too high. Brad ends the call and runs a hand through his slicked back hair. The restaurant partnership hit unexpected losses, he says, avoiding her eyes. It happens. Losses? Rachel repeats. He shrugs. Investments fluctuate. The word fluctuate sounds thin. Weeks pass, and the cracks widen. Another letter. Another call. Another late payment notice. Brad's phone rings more often. Sometimes he answers in the driveway. Sometimes he lets it go to voicemail. The messages pile up. Then one afternoon, a woman appears at the door with papers in hand, calm, professional. Rachel watches from the foyer as Brad signs for the envelope. His jaw tightens. When he opens it, his face drains of color. Alimony? Rachel asks, voice sharp. My ex is contesting the settlement, he mutters. Legal fees follow. Credit cards begin to strain. The guaranteed venture collapses entirely within 6 months. Investors withdraw. The restaurant closes quietly one weeknight, lights off without announcement. The mortgage remains. The house payment, the house she believed was secure, becomes a weight pressing steadily against her chest. Arguments fill the evenings now. You said this would work. Rachel snaps. It will. Brad insists, though his tone lacks conviction. Sell the house, she says finally. His head jerks toward her. Absolutely not. We can't afford this. This is your house. He fires back. From your previous marriage. It's ours, she insists. Then, where's your rich dead husband's money? He says bitterly. The words hang heavy. There had been life insurance once. She spent it on the wedding, on renovations, on appearances that now feel hollow. The silence that follows is colder than any argument. Brad starts drinking in the evenings. Not heavily at first, then more often. Rachel lies awake at night, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant echo of traffic. She begins to calculate. She remembers the old woman leaving without protest. Without a fight, she had assumed the story ended there. But desperation rewrites assumptions. One evening, Rachel sits at the dining table with her laptop open. The room is dim except for the blue glow of the screen. She types Lisa's name. Search results scatter across the page. Obituaries, social media fragments, nothing clear. She narrows the search, adds words, expands location filters. Still nothing. Weeks pass like this, late-night searches, quiet scrolling, rising anxiety. Then, one Saturday afternoon, she stumbles upon a regional blog, Creative Tiny Homes in Rural America. She almost clicks past it, but a photograph catches her eye. A bus, painted deep blue, white trim gleaming in the sunlight, solar panels on the roof, gardens blooming around it, and standing beside the bus, Lisa. Rachel's breath stops. The caption reads, Local resident Lisa Thompson has transformed her late husband's rural property into a sustainable tiny home retreat. Rachel scrolls slowly. More photographs appear. Inside the bus, hardwood floors, custom cabinetry, soft lighting. Outside, greenhouse, raised beds, a small fire pit. Lisa is smiling in each frame, not strained, not desperate, calm. Rachel's hand tightens around the mouse. The article mentions a small community forming around the property, weekly gatherings, support for older women facing life transitions. It also mentions, in a brief line, that Lisa had resources left by her late husband that made the transformation possible. Resources. Rachel feels heat rise in her face. She had money, she mutters. Brad looks up from the couch. Who? My former mother-in-law. She turns the screen toward him. He leans forward, squinting. That's where she ended up? He says. She acted like she had nothing. Rachel snaps. She let me believe she was helpless. Brad studies the article carefully. If she inherited assets from your father-in-law, there could be legal implications, he says, slowly. Implications? Rachel repeats. You were married to his son. There might be a claim. The logic is thin. Even she knows that. But thin hope is still hope. Rachel stares at the image of the bus again. The gardens look thriving. The structure solid. The land peaceful. It should not look like that. She closes the laptop abruptly. Where is Milford? Brad asks. She scrolls back to the article. The town name is mentioned casually in a sentence near the bottom. 40 miles out. Remote. Let's go, Brad says. Rachel hesitates only a moment. Pride had once kept her from looking back. Now pride bends under foreclosure, notices, and unpaid bills. 2 weeks later, their SUV rolls down a narrow rural highway. The engine hums steadily. though Rachel knows the vehicle itself is nearly as unaffordable as the house. They ask directions in town. A few locals nod toward the dirt road. She's the one with the bus house, someone says. Rachel's jaw tightens. The SUV turns onto uneven ground. Gravel crunches under the tires. Dust rises behind them in a pale cloud. The property comes into view slowly. The transformation is undeniable. What she had expected, abandonment, decay, is nowhere to be seen. Instead, she sees order, care, intention. The bus stands gleaming in the afternoon light. Rachel grips the steering wheel harder. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Then Brad cuts the engine. Silence settles over the land. Rachel steps out first. The air smells of soil and growing things. She adjusts her jacket, smoothing it reflexively. She will not arrive as someone desperate. She walks toward the open bus door. From inside, she hears laughter. Women's voices. Warm, easy. Rachel climbs the steps and knocks lightly on the frame. The laughter stops. Footsteps approach, and then Lisa appears in the doorway. For a brief second, neither woman speaks. Sunlight falls across the doorway, outlining Lisa's silver hair like a quiet halo. She is wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater, sleeves pushed neatly to her wrists. Her posture is relaxed, but steady. Rachel forces a smile. "Hi, Lisa." Behind Rachel, Brad shifts his weight on the gravel. The wind brushes lightly through the tall grass. "Rachel," Lisa says evenly, "this is unexpected." Her voice carries no tremor, no sharp edge, just recognition. "We were in the area," Rachel begins. "I heard about this place. I wanted to check on you." From inside the bus, soft murmurs drift forward. Three women sit at the small table near the window, teacups in their hands. Their eyes are not hostile, but they are not naive either. Lisa glances back briefly. "I'm in the middle of something." Rachel's smile tightens. "Could we talk? Privately?" There is a pause. Then Lisa nods once. "Of course." She steps outside, closing the bus door gently behind her. The latch clicks softly. She gestures toward the seating area arranged around the fire pit, 4 wooden chairs set in a circle. A small table between them. Rachel and Brad sit. Lisa remains standing for a moment longer, sunlight warming her shoulders. Then, she lowers herself slowly into the chair opposite them. The wind moves through the leaves of the greenhouse behind her. "So," Lisa says, "what brings you here after 18 months? Rachel swallows. She had rehearsed something on the drive out. Concern, regret, careful softness. But under Lisa's calm gaze, the words rearrange themselves. "I saw the articles," Rachel admits. "About what you built." Lisa tilts her head slightly. "Ah, you looked—" Rachel hesitates. "You looked well." "I am." Silence stretches thin. Rachel glances at Brad. He leans forward slightly, elbows on knees. "We're going through some financial difficulty," he says. "The market shifted. Investments failed." Lisa listens without interrupting. "The house is in foreclosure," Rachel adds quickly. "We're trying to stabilize things." A bird calls somewhere beyond the fence line. "And?" Lisa asks gently. Rachel's jaw tightens. "We thought maybe you might be able to help." The word help hangs fragile in the air. Lisa studies her. "Family should help family," Brad adds, voice smooth. The irony does not need to be pointed out. It exists on its own. Lisa exhales slowly through her nose. "Family," she repeats. Rachel shifts in her chair. "We made mistakes." Lisa's gaze sharpens slightly. "Yes, I was grieving," Rachel continues. "I wasn't thinking clearly." Lisa does not look away. You gave us your home, Rachel says. You gave us money. I gave David security. Lisa replies quietly, and I gave you trust. The wind lifts a strand of Rachel's hair across her cheek. Brad clears his throat. We're not asking for charity. Just a loan. Temporary. We'll pay you back. Lisa's eyes flick to him. Like the first time? She asks softly. Rachel's face flushes. That wasn't, she begins. Wasn't what? Lisa asks. The question is not loud. It is precise. Rachel inhales sharply. We were under pressure. So was I. The words land heavier than they sound. For a moment, the only noise is the faint hum of the solar inverter mounted along the bus roof. Lisa folds her hands loosely in her lap. When I arrived here, she says evenly, I slept inside a metal shell with no heat, no water, no certainty that I would survive the month. Rachel looks down. I did not call you, Lisa continues. I did not ask for help. You had resources, Rachel says quickly. You just didn't tell us. Lisa's gaze hardens for the first time. I found them when I needed them, she says. That is not the same as hiding them. Brad shifts again, irritation creeping into his posture. If assets were inherited, he says, there could be a legal argument. Lisa raises one hand slightly. Be careful, she says calmly. The air tightens. This land was in my husband's family long before you entered it, she continues. Her voice remains controlled, firm, not raised. Rachel's composure begins to fray. You let me think you were helpless, she says. You let me carry the burden. Lisa blinks slowly. I left when you asked me to. That's not what I meant. Lisa leans back slightly in her chair. What do you want from me? She asks again. Rachel hesitates. Money, Brad answers plainly. There it is. No polish now. Lisa nods once, almost as if confirming something to herself. I will not enable you, she says. Rachel's head snaps up. Enable? You are capable adults, Lisa continues. You made choices. Some of them were unwise. You can make different ones. Rachel's eyes flash. After everything I did for you? Lisa's expression shifts just barely. Everything you did? She echoes. The question hangs between them like a mirror. Brad stands abruptly. Gravel crunches beneath his shoes. So that's it? He says. You'd let us lose everything? Lisa rises well. I did not cause your losses, she replies. Rachel stands too, frustration spilling over. Fine, she says sharply. Don't expect us to come running when you're old and sick and alone. The threat sounds hollow in the open air. Lisa looks at her steadily. I am not alone, she says. Behind her, through the bus window, the silhouettes of 3 women are visible. Rachel follows her gaze and stiffens. Lisa steps slightly aside and gestures toward the dirt road. You should leave, she says. Her tone is not angry. It is finished. Brad grabs Rachel's arm lightly and guides her toward the SUV. Rachel pauses once, looking back. Lisa does not move. The engine starts with a low rumble. Gravel spits beneath the tires as the vehicle turns. Dust rises and drifts slowly across the field. Lisa stands until the sound fades completely. Only then does she turn back toward the bus. The door opens with a soft click. The women inside look at her with quiet understanding. Are you all right? One of them asks. Lisa nods. I am, she says, and this time it is entirely true. The dust from the SUV has barely settled when silence returns to the property. Lisa remains standing for a moment longer, watching the empty stretch of dirt road. The wind moves gently through the garden beds, brushing tomato leaves together in a soft whisper. Inside the bus, porcelain teacups clink lightly as one of the women sets hers down. They'll be back, Dorothy says quietly. Lisa does not answer immediately. She steps down from the bus doorway and walks toward the small outdoor table. On it rests a folder she had brought outside earlier: property documents, well permits, contractor receipts. She had been organizing them before the interruption. Her hand lingers on the edge of the folder. They might, she says at last. The women watch her carefully. What will you do if they try something legal? Another asks. Lisa opens the folder. Inside, the papers are arranged with deliberate order: land deed, tax statements, deposit records, safety deposit box contract, appraisal copies. Each document carries a date, a signature, a stamp, proof. She lifts the deed first, smoothing it flat on the table. My husband's family owned this land before I was born, she says calmly. The paper rustles in the wind. Dorothy nods slowly. They sounded desperate. She adds, yes. Lisa agrees. She closes the folder again, but does not put it away. Instead, she remains seated, her hands resting lightly on the stack. Desperation can make people reckless. The following week proves her correct. A letter arrives in the mail from an attorney's office in the city. Lisa opens it at the kitchen counter inside the bus. The paper slides free with a faint whisper. The language is careful, but pointed: an inquiry into potential inheritance overlap. A request for clarification regarding assets belonging to the late father of David Thompson. Lisa reads every line twice. Her face remains still. There is no accusation in the letter, no lawsuit filed. Just probing, overreach without foundation. She sets the paper down and reaches for her phone. The coin dealer answers on the second ring. Yes, Mrs. Thompson, I need copies of transaction documentation, she says. Everything. Of course. By afternoon, the documents arrive by email. Digital confirmations, sales receipts, bank transfers, appraisal dates, time stamped, clear. She prints them at the small library in Milford the next morning. The printer hums and spits out pages one by one. Each sheet carries the same silent message: mine. She places the attorney's letter and her documentation side by side on the small wooden table inside the bus. Then she drives into town and mails a response. Certified. The postal clerk stamps the receipt firmly. Return requested? The clerk asks. Yes. The sound of the stamp hitting paper feels grounding. Final. 2 weeks pass. No further letters arrive. No calls. Brad does not return. Rachel does not either. Instead, word drifts quietly through Milford that the couple has put the house on the market. The price is lower than expected. Lower still the following month. Eventually, it disappears from listings entirely. Dorothy brings the news one afternoon during tea. Foreclosed, she says gently. Lisa nods once. She feels no triumph, only confirmation. Overreach collapses under its own weight. That evening, as the sun lowers across the property, Lisa sits alone in the driver's seat. The hum of the inverter is soft behind her. The air smells faintly of basil from the garden. She watches the horizon without expression. The temptation to feel vindicated passes through her like a brief shadow. She does not hold on to it. What she holds instead is clarity. Boundaries enforced quietly are stronger than anger, shouted loudly. Her phone buzzes softly in her pocket. A message notification from the website she created for the women's group. A new comment on her latest post. Thank you for showing us we can rebuild. Lisa smiles faintly. She types a short reply. Rebuilding starts with knowing what is yours and protecting it. She sets the phone aside and leans back in the seat. The bus no longer feels like refuge from something. It feels like foundation. The land around her is orderly now. Gardens growing. The greenhouse catching the last gold of daylight. the small cabin near completion for women needing temporary shelter. Everything here stands because she chose not to surrender it, not to fear, not to guilt, not to manipulation. Wind brushes gently against the exterior of the bus, no longer rattling loose panels, but gliding over sealed seams. The property holds steady. Lisa closes her eyes briefly, breathing in the evening air. The threat had come and gone, without shouting, without spectacle, without her having to step beyond the line she had drawn. She opens her eyes again as the last edge of sun slips below the horizon. The bus interior glows softly under solar light. For the first time since Rachel and Brad drove away, there is nothing left unresolved. Only quiet, only ownership, only peace. The seasons turn without asking permission. Spring softens into summer. Summer ripens into fall. The land responds in steady cycles. Seed, bloom, harvest, rest. The small property gains a quiet reputation beyond Milford. Women arrive not just out of curiosity now, but out of need. They come in careful cars with hesitant smiles, carrying overnight bags and stories they have not yet told anyone else. Lisa listens. She listens to Martha, whose children placed her in a nursing facility before selling her home. She listens to Joan, whose husband left after 4 decades and emptied their accounts in the process. She listens to Patricia, who speaks softly about becoming invisible in her own daughter's house. The fire pit glows warmly on cool evenings. Tea steams in mismatched cups. Laughter begins to return to voices that once sounded hollow. The small cabin near the edge of the property becomes a temporary refuge for women in transition. Nothing luxurious, just clean sheets, a window that opens to open sky, and a door that locks from the inside. Lisa moves through her days with steady purpose. She gardens in the morning. She checks irrigation lines. She wipes dust from solar panels. She answers emails in the afternoon from women who found her through articles and local coverage. A regional magazine features the property as an example of creative solutions for older women facing housing insecurity. A photograph shows Lisa standing near the greenhouse, hands clasped lightly, eyes calm. A state official visits once, walking the cleared paths with polite admiration. A small grant is mentioned, modest but meaningful. A university invites her to speak to students studying aging and community care. She accepts when it feels right. She declines when it does not. Visibility no longer feels threatening. It feels earned. On her 77th birthday, a handful of women gather around the outdoor table. There is a small cake with simple white frosting. Someone has placed wildflowers in a jar at the center. When they ask her to say something, she stands slowly. 2 years ago, she begins, her voice carrying easily in the open air. I thought my life was over. The women listen. I had lost everyone I loved. I believed the rest of my days would shrink smaller and smaller. A breeze moves gently through the leaves overhead. But I learned something important, she continues. We are not defined by what happens to us. We are defined by how we respond. Her eyes move across the circle of faces. I was given resources. Yes, but I had to choose what to do with them. I could have spent that money on bitterness. I chose community. There is no applause, just quiet understanding. Later that evening, after the women leave and the last teacup is washed and set to dry, Lisa sits once more in the driver's seat. Through the windshield, the property stretches in orderly peace beneath a soft twilight sky. Her phone vibrates gently in her pocket. An unknown number. She hesitates only briefly before answering. Hello? There is a pause on the other end. It's Rachel. The voice sounds smaller than she remembers. Not sharp, not polished, just tired. Lisa remains seated, posture steady. Yes, I won't take much of your time, Rachel says quickly. Brad and I are divorced. The word lands quietly. The house was foreclosed. I'm in a small apartment now, working 2 jobs. Lisa listens without interruption. I've had time to think, Rachel continues, about what I did, about how I treated you. The air inside the bus feels still. I was cruel, Rachel says. There's no excuse. I wanted to tell you, I'm sorry. The apology is not dramatic. It does not tremble. It does not ask for anything in return. It simply exists. Lisa closes her eyes for a brief moment. Thank you, she says. I don't expect forgiveness, Rachel adds. I just needed to say it. Lisa opens her eyes again. I accept your apology, she says calmly. But our lives are separate now. There is silence. I understand, Rachel replies. They speak for a few minutes more. Nothing about money, nothing about rescue, just acknowledgement. When the call ends, Lisa sets the phone down beside her. She does not feel triumph. She does not feel anger. What she feels is completion. Some wounds never disappear entirely, but they no longer dictate the direction of her days. Outside, the solar lights along the gravel path flicker on one by one. The greenhouse glows faintly. The small cabin stands ready for its next guest. The bus hums softly with stored sunlight. Lisa looks at her hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. They are older now, stronger too. The land around her is alive with possibility. Not because it was given to her, but because she chose to cultivate it. She whispers a quiet thank you into the fading light, not only to the man who prepared for her future, but to herself, because in the end, she did not survive by chance. She survived by choice. The bus, once a symbol of abandonment, now reflects the last glow of sunset in its polished windows. Dignity is not shelter. Dignity is choice.